Okay, guys, welcome back to a very special edition of the Coach Trap podcast. This week, me and Dan are going to go over maybe the biggest questions in coaching. So, Dan, I've got a question for you. 90% of coaches quit or fail in their first year. Why is that?
I think most coaches they get it wrong. They think to be a good coach, what you need to do is do your qualifications and then help loads of people and then get loads of testimonials, loads of reviews, build up the skills. Whereas that's only 50% of it. The other 50% is actually just marketing yourself, getting yourself out there, getting on platforms, podcasts, all sorts of things. Because if people, it doesn't matter how good you are, if people don't know about you, you're not going to get paid. You're not going to have a sustainable business. So I think that is the big issue that I see with the 90% that quit. They're not
Absolutely.
focused enough.
Absolutely. Do you think it's a case that maybe they're not bad coaches, but bad marketers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think most great coaches are bad marketers, and most great marketers are bad coaches.
Yeah.
So when you can get the two together, it's just a recipe for success, really.
Absolutely. So look, I was that coach. When I first started, I was that coach who fell for that cliche: build it and they will come. Set up your profiles, create your ads, create that Canva mountain. Go on Canva, put the mountain picture on it, put the famous quote on it, and you expect them just to come. You expect them just to drop in your DMs, book on your website, and it doesn't quite happen. So why is that? Is there maybe like a misconception of what actual marketing is for coaching? That seems to me to almost be the biggest giveaway that a coach is new, or maybe they don't quite know what they're doing. What's your impressions on that?
I think coaches either think marketing is really big and really scary and they can't do it, or they think it's really easy, you just have to post stuff and then people are going to instantly come to you. I think both of those are wrong. Both of them, you need to put in effort, but people aren't going to come to you instantly if you just post stuff.
Yeah,
So obviously you've got the DMs, you've got all sorts of different strategies, which we're going to talk about in this. But it's also not really complicated, so you can learn it. Obviously you're a great example of that. And yeah, I think it's just not overcomplicating it, but at the same time, not oversimplifying it.
it's a really good way to put it. I think that, like I said, when most coaches go out there and they're brand new, they think build it and they will come. I remember that great chat we had with Katrina Frill, didn't we?
Yeah.
And you realise there's a bit more to that. We talked about that as being the bird of paradise dance, didn't we? Where you look at this as almost like human on human reaction, or not AI or whatever it might be. That how does the bird of paradise attract the other bird from the middle of the jungle back to its nest? It doesn't go to Canva, create a post and put it out there and hope for the best, hope that the other bird's going to drop in his DMs. There's a bit more to it, isn't it? That nurturing process from that cuckoo that goes out across the jungle to that magical dance in the middle, and then convince them to get into that finely perfected nest. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about that. That original call, that first thing that a coach puts out, I think hooks storytelling is mainly where one of the reasons or places that they go wrong. Yeah. So what's some of the common problems that you see, and what do you think is a way to, like, a quick fix that to go about that?
Yeah, so most people, they're scrolling LinkedIn, they're scrolling X, whatever it might be, and they see so many other coaches giving tips and getting great likes, getting great views, and they think, I can do that. I can give loads of tips, I've got loads of experience. What they actually find out is that people don't care about the tips themselves, they care about the person, which is the big thing. And I think it's very difficult to start when you're not sharing about yourself, if that makes sense. So most coaches will be too shy and they'll just share tips and they're great tips, but they're not going to resonate with the right people because they're not talking about themselves. So, for an example, Rod, who we talked to a few weeks ago, he was an ex-rugby player. He had some great experiences, great stories that we only found out about after the actual podcast when he told us about them, which is a shame actually because I think that the audience would love to hear that. Some of them would have really resonated with that and followed him, DM'd him, whatever that might be. But it's just a case of getting yourself out there. But I think there is a case for oversharing as well, and I think those boundaries and stuff. That's what you've been really thinking about recently, is how much should I actually share to resonate that maximum amount.
Absolutely. If you think a coach's first original process is to make content to put it out there, I think that what I see most coaches do is they say me all the time. They show their qualifications, they show what life experiences they've had, maybe what car they drive, whatever it might be, right? What it doesn't do is solve the problem of the potential client who's seeing it, isn't it? And that's the biggest problem. So if you're going to look at that in terms of, the bird of paradise dance, they're not so interested in the other bird of paradise. They're interested in what sort of life they can give them, what sort of offspring, how good that nest is, isn't it? Solving that problem. And that's the initial thing, isn't it? So how do you do that? Like how do you create a stop the scroll moment where it's not me. I've got this qualification, I've got this fancy watch, I've got this great lifestyle. You can have that, because that doesn't work, doesn't it? The art of storytelling. What is it that stops the scroll, that makes that person go, hang on, I like this person, they can help me?
Yeah. So this is a case of niching down. I think you'll see a lot of life coaches who say, I'm going to give you a better life, I'm going to make you happier, or something really vague like that, and it just doesn't hit people well enough. So with LinkedIn or with X or whatever writing platform it is, it's all about the hooks. So you could say, I'm going to help you stop vaping in 30 days. So you're targeting a small part of that market, and be the big fish in the small pond, which is definitely where you want to start. You don't want to be you don't want to be kind of competing with Tony Robbins or anyone like that, because you're just going to lose. And that's why most coaches quit, because they're competing in too broad a market when they could actually be resonate with better people or more people, and just being able to help people and get in first before expanding to helping different types of people. Just solving that one problem and being really specific about what problem you solve, so that people see you on the feed and think, oh my God, that's me. I've got that problem. This guy can help. They follow you. They see a few more pieces of content. They DM you, and then you've kind of got a business. So I think, yeah, niching down is something that people are scared to do because it means commitment, and commitment means if you fail, it's your fault and you feel bad about yourself. But at the same time, you can't win without risking failure. So I think niching down, very big thing.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. If someone would have told me 2 years ago I'd have been mentoring other coaches, I would have laughed. Yeah. I went off as that sort of stereotypical life coach. I still do that, but it's interesting how sometimes your niche finds you, based on your life story or what qualities you've got or how you project yourself. And that brings me back, doesn't it, to the art of storytelling, niching down, stopping the scroll. There is a line, isn't there, to how much you have to be prepared to tell, what you're not prepared to tell. I've openly said that I'm not quite comfortable talking about my wife. I'm not happy talking about all of my past experiences. So how do you find that golden sweet spot of, this is the problems I've got, okay? I can help you with similar problems that you've got, okay? Trust me. Click on my landing page, join up to my email list, sign up for a discovery call or whatever it is. What is that sweet spot that we're looking for? For me, it was, do you remember the guy come to us who was the doctor? Yeah. And we said, look, that's not quite going to work. And he said, why? And I said to him, look, doctor turned life coach isn't quite going to work. Yeah. But what did work? We found something, didn't it? It wasn't so much about him. It was about what problems people are looking for that he can solve. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So using your own life stories, what you've gone through to sort of solve other people's problems. Is that the sweet spot to stopping the scroll?
I think that's a big part. I think a lot of coaches get influenced by the content that they see from the gurus or whatever like that, and they kind of want to project themselves as invincible, have no problems, perfect. But that's just going to do the opposite of what you want it to do. It's just going to make people not resonate with you. Think this guy's either fake or he's not kind of the same as me. And people want to work with people who are similar to them and who they get on with, which is why it's really important to be yourself to attract people that you actually do get on with. Saves you a lot of headaches with the clients. I think it's really easy to draw down on the stories that you've had, the experiences. What I would do is just DM people, anyone, you search for them in your social media, search for your target audience, ask them what problems are they having, what issues, and just make content based off that. Because the chances are, if you're an experienced coach, you've helped people like that before, or you've been there yourself, which is even better. And it's good to show your own transformation, It really does. It really does resonate.
Yeah.
Because if you've done it for yourself, people are going to trust you to do it for them as well.
Yeah. That's probably the truth, is it? You know, sharing your own experiences, how that's worked for you, how that's helped other people, you know, and then using that DM strategy, that content, you know, to try and find those like-minded people. But for me as a coach, you can't lead others down a path if you haven't walked it yourself. I think that's crucially important.
Yeah.
The amount of 20-year-old life coaches I see, or people that are only ever sort of going into, you know, the start of life, how the hell can they teach others? I think sometimes that's why accountability is great, isn't it? You know, having the coach trap, having other people say to you, look, let's be honest, that's not going to work, but this might work. You know,
Yeah.
like the story we had with the doctor, coming back to him, you know, when he come to us and he said, Greg and Dan, you know, I want to know why I'm not getting clients. We were like, you know, a doctor turned life coach isn't quite going to work. What can you give? And that's when you found that magic question that people were looking for, wasn't it? You know, how to look, how to feel 5 years younger. That changed everything for him, wasn't it? You know, niching down, finding something specific based on the experiences and the skills that he's got. He found that sweet spot. He marketed it. He won. Yeah.
Yeah.
But going on off of that, any other sort of like initial mistakes that you see coaches make, or giveaways you think that maybe they're new, or maybe they've not quite found that niche down, or they've found that target market?
Yeah, mostly it's just vague advice. It's vague platitudes, stuff like that. They might get a few likes. Is it actually going to turn into anything? Probably not. And that's why they quit, because they think they're getting results, but at the same time they're not getting results. So they're just confused. They don't know what's going on. They quit. And it's obviously uncomfortable to share those experiences that you've had and that you've helped people with. But it's going to pay off, and it's going to actually help a lot more people. Which is why most coaches are in it for, and why most coaches do struggle with marketing, because they're, you know, the type B type of people that you talk about a lot, who are more focused on helping people rather than making money. But obviously you can't help people if you don't have an income, you don't have food. It's kind of like putting your own oxygen mask on first on the plane so you can help other people. Because otherwise it's just not going to work sustainably.
Absolutely. It's like taking advice off an overweight personal trainer. It's not quite going to work, is it?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes your face fits, your accent, what experiences you've had in life. You know, like I said, I'm a firm believer you can't lead others down a path if you haven't walked it yourself, if you haven't had those life experiences, those successes. How the hell can you coach someone else?
Yeah.
You know, going back to that 20-year-old life coach scenario, it doesn't quite work. But some of them are very good on CapCut, very
Yes.
good at creating that content.
This is what I mean by that. They're really good marketers are usually bad coaches.
Yeah.
So it's getting that balance between that you just become exponentially better than everyone else.
Absolutely. I think one of the other giveaways that I see, if we're talking about that bird of paradise dance, that initial cuckoo, that initial thing that they send out, that call, yeah, build it and they will come, is, let's say, you know, let's even go to posting on LinkedIn. People using too much AI, people using hashtags, generated images, maybe an over-the-top cringeworthy picture of themselves. We see this every day.
Yeah.
But we also see so many of these guys come and go. They're going heavy and hard for a month and then they're gone. We were talking about that this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have they gone so quickly? Have they not made it because of those initial mistakes? What's your thoughts on that?
I think usually the reason they work really hard, whatever that might be, is they're focusing on the wrong thing. They're focusing on likes and views, which they do get, but they're not getting results from that. So they're not really incentivized to keep going. They think it doesn't work for them or whatever. They're special. That it just doesn't work. Social media works for everyone. There's like 500 million people on X. There's like nearly 1 billion people on LinkedIn. There's going to be someone or like a few people who you can sign as clients who are going to resonate with whatever you sell. Even if that's the most niche thing ever, it could be 1% of the 1% of the 1%. You're still going to have, you know, hundreds, thousands of people who you could reach with obviously the right targeting, the right message. And showing all of the aspects of yourself the experiences and all that sort of stuff that's going to make them think, this guy's for me. I can't believe it. He's the only creator in this space, but it doesn't matter because you've resonated with them and you can help them. And that's what a business is.
That's it. Resonating with them is the key, isn't it? You know, you've got that amazing story, haven't you, of signing your first client after 30 followers.
Yeah.
When actually I think people chase trying to be viral, but not resonating. Me and you have met quite a few of these types who've got 50, 60,000 followers, but don't have a consistent client base. And then we come on to a few others that maybe have 1 or 2,000 or whatever it might be, but they're consistently landing. Yeah. So what is the difference in that content? Is it that they're not writing about me, that they're trying to speak to that specific person, or maybe not jumping on the bandwagon of what the gurus are doing, or using too much AI? That's what we try to preach within the Coach Trap, isn't it? Yeah. But what's your thoughts on that, and what have you seen?
I think mostly it's people making content to give other people dopamine, so like the motivational quotes and stuff like that. People like them, but they're not going to buy from someone who just posts motivational quotes. Anyone could do that, but they follow you. They keep getting the dopamine. They like it. Whereas the people who are signing clients with 30 followers, or they've got specific hooks which are giving the dopamine for that specific person, thinking this guy can actually help me. Obviously, Twitter has changed a lot since I signed a client at 30 followers. It's a bit ridiculous, really, if you think about it, because I was a ghostwriter with 30 followers. But everyone starts somewhere, and you have got to start somewhere, and you have got to at some point attract the right people as some sort of percentage of your followers that will actually buy from you. Sometimes they don't even have the money to buy from you, so it's kind of pointless posting for those people. They're not actually going to give you anything, if that makes sense. Even if you're going to help them, you're helping them for free, which doesn't really make sense. You've got to help the people who could pay you for free, and then they'll pay you, if that makes sense. So it's just a case of targeting the right people, speaking to them with your experiences, as we talked about before. And that's just going to really make them think, this is the guy for me. This guy can solve my problems.
Absolutely. That brings me back to another great piece of advice, or stuff that we talk to new coaches or struggling coaches about, is you have to be prepared to give a hell of a lot of yourself away for free. You know, so for us, we have the podcast, we have the community, we have, a newsletter, we're posting content, whatever it might be, right? But if you're not prepared to give away that, genuinely try and help people, then I think coaching in this modern day and age, and putting yourself out on social media, you're going to be a little bit lost, So for me personally, and not just in coaching, but throughout life, if you're doing something that you enjoy and you're generally invested and you love it and you want to help people, the money is always a byproduct of it. So are the coaches that chase the money, advertise their prices, give away Black Friday sales, become too salesy, maybe an over the top funnel, whatever it might be, do they fit in that 90% that fell?
I think they do. Well, because you could get clients for 1 month, but then they're going to go. They're going to give you terrible reviews. They don't like you, because obviously, like, negative word of mouth travels a lot faster than positive word of mouth. So people are going to put bad comments on your posts. They're just going to unfollow you, that kind of thing. But I think you can't give away too much for free, as long as you're giving that thing to the right person, and it's helping them in a way that's going to make them trust you, and give you money eventually, because that's why we're in business at the end of the day. You help people, but at the same time, you've got to keep helping yourself, having an income to make sure you can keep helping people, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think there's usually people are at one of the two extremes, where they're trying to help too many people and they're not making an income, or they're trying to make so much income that they're just not helping anyone and no one pays them. So both of them are just failing, and they're part of the 86%. Yeah.
Absolutely. So look, if we're at that initial stage of the Bird of Paradise dance, the Bird of Paradise has done that call and it's gone out, right? You hope to resonate with your dream client, and then you hope to bring them into the next stage, which is the dance, before they go to the nest. Yeah. I spoke to an expert the other day, and he had a really good point. I asked him, what is the most common problem that you see with marketing? Not even about coaches. He said the use of hashtags, in particular on LinkedIn, and the overuse of AI, such as emojis, telling when someone hasn't actually written it. Maybe they've used Claude, for example, whatever it might be. Real over the top, where it's not them, and almost it's giving it away that this coach is cutting corners. Shortcuts don't win all the time. We can talk about that in a minute. The correct way to use AI, the incorrect way to use AI. But for you, what's the biggest giveaway? If you're thinking about that stage from going from the cuckoo to bringing them to the next bit, the dance, what's the biggest single mistake that you see?
I think you can give a lot of information with AI, but at the same time, people could just Google it, chat GPT it themselves. So it's not really positioning you as and authority. Um, I think the aesthetic stuff is quite obvious. It's the long dashes, it's the emojis, things like that. And people can tell, but they won't mind as long as it's got kind of a soul and you're talking about your own experiences, which obviously AI does not have. And I think that personality, well, I mean, it's called a personal brand. It's got to be personal. You've got to share things that matter to you, which are going to, by extension, matter to the people that you're trying to target. And obviously, ChatGPT can give you probably better information than 80% of coaches, whatever that might be. But people will have already ChatGPT'd it themselves, so they won't really be that impressed by posts from ChatGPT. They'll actually be impressed by maybe less information, but maybe you've helped someone, you show a transformation, they're like, wow, this guy can actually do this for me. Whereas ChatGPT isn't guaranteeing anything, it's just giving you information, which you probably won't even listen to really because you don't trust it that much. So I don't know why you'd use it for your content.
Yeah,
It
it's a
just
really
doesn't make
good point.
sense.
So look, we're still at that first stage, aren't we? You know, trying to attract that bird to get them to your nest. For me, I think the biggest single mistake that I see, and I see it so many times, in particular on LinkedIn or X, are broken links. I cannot believe it.
Yeah.
When you're actually interested in something that they've done or they've posted, and you click and it brings you to nothing. Yeah. And you're thinking, again, it's a shortcut, isn't it? It's like, or you know, you're giving away that impression that you can't even solve your own problems, let alone anyone else's. You know, I remember a great one as well when we had Jimmy Gibson. He was a great guy, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a really good point about writing 25 comments a day on people's LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do that, how many people do that with AI? Will that shortcut you? Will that, you know, you've openly said this to me before, yeah, about how I comment on other people's posts. It could impact on my own personal branding, yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Any other sort of like initial issues that you see at that first stage, if you like, of the bird of paradise dance?
I think the issue with AI content and AI comments is people try and use it to do less. So they ask ChatGPT for comments so that they don't have to do it themselves. They do the same 25 comments, but they're just worse comments. What AI is actually for is for you to do the same amount, the same quality of comments, so your comments, feed them that. They're going to make it 100 comments, 200 comments. It's to increase scale rather than to decrease the workload. Um, Obviously, people are lazy inherently, but if you're going to use it to do more rather than to do less. If that makes sense. I think with comments you can actually get away with some AI, but at the end of the day, you're not even talking to these people. They could message you and you wouldn't even know who they are. And I think that's a big thing is the human connection. Um, well, as much as you can have a human connection over the internet, it's going to be a lot more than AI talking to AI, whatever that looks like. It just doesn't have the same effect, and you're not going to write as thoughtful comments with AI as it is in 2025 as you could by yourself. Again, sharing experiences in comments is really cool. Humor as well does really well. So if you have those things, if you have a personality, you'd be better off doing it yourself rather than trying to save like 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day writing with AI.
It's a really good point. It's a really good point. Another issue that I see, and it's a hot topic of debate. I see some gurus say go hard on one platform, nail it, and then move on. All
Yeah.
right. I see others that say get yourself out as many times as possible. Right. So for me, the way I see it, and I love an analogy, right, is that the more fishing boats you've got in the ocean, the more chance you've got of catching a fish. Yeah. So if the ocean is the internet, yeah, and that is where your clients are, which are your fish, the more boats you've got, which are your social media channels, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, Substack, whatever it might be, Google AdWords, that list goes on and on and on, doesn't it? You know, the more chances you've got of catching a fish. Yeah. Or do you agree with that? Would you go just hard on one? Or do you think that maybe if you see a coach and they're really big on one, not so big on the others, or maybe they're putting loads of effort into one and not so much effort to others, do you think that impacts on their image and personal branding? We can go in so many angles with this, but what would be your recommendation to a coach if they come to us? Do you go for one, or do you go for many boats in the ocean?
If they're just starting, I would choose to go heavily in on one. So obviously for us that's LinkedIn. Our main one is LinkedIn. From there, you can once you start to get a little bit of an audience, maybe 100 followers, whatever that is, um, expand. So X is another writing platform. If you were to start on Instagram, for example, once you start getting a little bit of traction there, just post the exact same videos but onto TikTok, because it's going to take an extra like 5 seconds. But as you said, it's getting more boats out. Even if they're small shit boats at the start, they could grow into something, and it's better to have more rather than just try and focus on one for the sake of it. For us, we've got Instagram as well. We don't really put too much effort into that. We just create the clips, but yeah, I think just get yourself out there as much as possible,
Mm.
and repurposing content is really important as well. With the efficiency, we talked about that on a podcast a few months ago. Is Opus clips? It's a really good one. So this podcast is probably you're going to probably be watching this clip. It's probably going to be because of Opus clips. It takes 10 seconds. This isn't sponsored, by the way. It takes 10 seconds. Put your podcast into it. You got 30 clips from a half an hour podcast. And it's just using AI in that way to do more, to put out clips as well as a podcast, rather than to do less, which would be to type into ChatGPT to create a video of us speaking about whatever this is. It's to do more, which is obviously the way it's supposed to be used and the way that people are using it when they're doing it right and they're getting results from it. So I would focus on one platform to start with, and then expand to the other writing platforms if that platform is a writing platform, or visual platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, if your main platform is one of those.
That's a really good point. One of the things that we try to coach and help others with is this idea of mirroring or repurposing, isn't it? So if you do one podcast, it can make reels for Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. That list goes on and on. You can make a newsletter which can go out on LinkedIn, your own newsletter, Substack, X,
Yeah.
long form, whatever it might be. But it's one piece of content repurposed many times, to work smarter, not harder. Yeah. But I think, if you're a coach or you're a marketer, we all want to catch that shark, yeah, or that whale, if you like,
Yeah.
your high ticket client. All right. So if you're limiting yourself to one platform, I think you are limiting that chance of signing that whale, if you like. So it's like the more rods you've got out in the sea, the more boats you've got, obviously, the greater chance you've got to catch that whale, isn't it? But it's a tough one. If you have more content, more stuff going out, do you sacrifice on quality?
I think an extra, say, if you're doing an hour already a day on LinkedIn, for example, an extra 10 minutes would not get you that far. You get an extra like 10%, whatever that is. An extra 10 minutes focused on Instagram after the hour you spent on LinkedIn would be brilliant, because you get all pretty much like 80% of the results, but in the first 10 minutes. So you get diminishing returns for the longer you spend on one platform. So having a main platform is good because it means that you can kind of use it as a default. So most people come from there. And the other thing is actually you can get banned from platforms without really much explanation.
Yep.
I know a lot of people who've been banned from X for no reason.
Yep.
And they've just had to start from zero again. They had nothing. They had no LinkedIn, no Instagram, nothing. When you have got multiple platforms, you'll have the same people potentially follow you on multiple platforms. You can tell them, this is my new X. After I got banned, they'll follow you. You'll build up much quicker. And you also won't lose all of your source of leads overnight. You won't have to worry about that. So that's another thing, is spend that 5-10 minutes on the other platform, second, third platform. It's going to give you much better returns than an extra 5 or 10 minutes on your main platform.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think if we're moving slowly along that chain of events, that cuckoo's gone out to the bird, you're trying to nurture it now to this dance stage. Yeah. We're talking about multiple platforms or using one platform, different boats. Quality over consistency, or is it the other way? Is it consistency over quality? Now, recently I've heard a lot of gurus talk about this, Alex Hormozi, even Stephen Bartlett talking about his own podcast, right? What is your best piece of advice? So we met a guy, didn't we? And he openly said, I spend 4 hours a day creating content. We met that person who has 50,000 followers.
Yeah.
Recently. Doesn't convert. No clients at all. So what's your thoughts on that? Is it consistent every day, little and often, if you like, build up a schedule? or do you try to build that crazy big event, that lead magnet? Does that lead to burnout?
I mean, if it takes 4 hours a day to post your content, you're doing something wrong.
Absolutely.
You haven't got any systems in place probably, and if you have, you're doing either too much content, which is a thing. If you're posting 20 tweets a day or like five LinkedIn posts a day, it doesn't matter. So as I said before, diminishing returns. That's the big thing here. I think most people are posting either too little or too much. So it's getting that balance, as with a lot of these things, it's getting the balance between not sacrificing for your current clients. You want delivery to be number one, but you also want to get more clients in eventually. But if you're spending probably more than an hour and a half a day on content, and you've got clients already, I would be saying, hang on, what you doing in that time? Because obviously, for us, we spend about an hour a day, and we split that into three 20-minute sections with the comments, the posting, and the DMs. And if you're starting out as well, you won't even be replying to comments because you won't have many comments. So you can turn that into half an hour. But I think you shouldn't be spending more than an hour and a half on content, and it just gets boring as well. Like coaches don't like posting content most of the time, but it's a necessary evil that you have to do it to help more people and to build an income for yourself. Just don't spend ages on it. Just make it enjoyable for yourself, and that's going to translate into your content as well. So people can see when you're enjoying it, and you can't force creativity either.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a big thing.
That's a really great point. For me, if you look at coaches being type A and type B, difference between extrovert and introvert, I've openly said this before, the difference between Coach Carter and Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, marketers of Wolf of Wall Street, they love that. Not necessarily great coaches.
Yeah.
Coaches are, Coach Carter, they want to spend time coaching, yeah, not making content. It's finding that sweet spot. But if you don't make the content, you're not going to attract that bird to your nest, are you? So for me, if there's any new coaches, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, we can go back to talking about my own campaign and how we change that, right? But if a new coach is going to come to me, I would tell them 66 days to create a habit, right, of creating a schedule. Don't expect to build any sort of authority without 100 posts. What's your thoughts on that?
I think at least, if not more.
Yeah.
You can't expect to people to trust you overnight. I think it's 6 to 7 times people want to see you before they actually trust you enough to send a DM, buy from you. And you've got to be consistent with it. Obviously, you've got to be consistently good as well. If you're consistently showing up on their feed and they think this guy's rubbish, I can't be arsed reading this, they scroll past. There's no point being consistent then because you're being consistently rubbish.
Yeah.
You've got to be consistently good. So first, be good. Create some good content that resonates with people, as we said before, resonates with the right people that can buy from you. They have the ability to do that, and then you can scale it up with AI, with more time, with more effort.
Yep.
Once you actually know what you're doing and you know it's getting results.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Going back to that quality over consistency, if you think about, that 90% that quit or fail and why, many of them look at themselves, they're worried about how much they can put out. But we found out, didn't we, that before someone wants to buy, they need to see you 6 to 8 times. Yeah. So some gurus will say post 3 times a week, a mix of one carousel, one video, one whatever, one platform, right? For me, personally, I try to post every day on every single platform. One, because I love it and I want to give value to the people that I'm helping, yeah? What do you think about that? Is what I'm doing maybe too much? Is that maybe not quite a good system that maybe a new coach or someone who's trying to mix between a full-time job and being a coach, that's quite impossible to keep up that level of consistency. So, we found Opus Clips, that's amazing, yeah? And newsletter, emails, incredibly important in terms of that nurturing space, yeah? If we're talking about getting the bird from the bird of paradise dance, if you like, to the nest now, yeah? But what's your thoughts on that? What would be your magic advice?
I think people need to think about what type of coach they are. So obviously we are coaching content for coaches. So if we had 7 followers and we posted every 2 weeks, it would just look a bit silly because we're actually teaching this. We're supposed to be good at this. We've got to show that in our own content. because you're your own best testimonial. If you're maybe a life coach or personal trainer, something like that, people don't really mind how much you post as long as they keep seeing you and they keep building that momentum of trust with you. Because if they see you 6 to 8 times, but that was over the course of 9 or 10 months, they probably won't remember your last post. They'll probably think, "Where's this guy been? I'm not sure where he is," which is not what you want people to think, because it kind of reflects on you. You want people to think this guy shows up, he's always on time, he's always consistent with the posts, he's always sharing value. And when you're always doing those things consistently, as much as possible, you've got a business, you've got people trusting you enough to buy,
Absolutely.
and that's what it is.
For me, that's the stage of the bird of paradise dance that's after the cuckoo. So that's gone out. This is the dance itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you're trying to convince them to go and see your nest, to hopefully, have the rumble in the jungle, if you like. But that dance phase, right? For most coaches, that's a lead magnet, right? The biggest mistake I see, and I'd love to know your input on this: free blueprint, free PDF, sign up to my whatever, all right? Is that too salesy? Going on to the idea that I said, the difference between Wolf of Wall Street and Coach Carter, where coaches are more in that Coach Carter, don't want to appear salesy, want to actually help people. I can almost tell when a coach has worked with a marketer, because that's the approach, right? But actually it doesn't quite fit their profile, does it, right? So what's some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen, or the biggest sort of like, hang on, that doesn't quite fit the person, all right? In maybe what would you do? I think that'd be a great chat, wasn't it? Is you need the lead magnet. Yeah, that's your dance, isn't it? Right? We're trying to convince them. What would you recommend there? And what's the biggest mistakes that you've seen?
The lead magnet is kind of to seal the deal between converting trust into clients, into money.
Yeah.
So if you're posting a lead magnet when you haven't got trust already, no one's going to see it. And if they do see it, they're not going to click it. Because, there's a lot of scammers out here. Even if it's free, it's still a little bit of effort for them to click it, open it, read it, whatever that is. And people need a reason to click it. So if they've seen you before, if you posted content before, they're like 100 times more likely to click it and actually get the value from it. With sharing the value in it, I think you can't give away too much. I think you could give away everything and they still come to you just for the ease of it, the guarantee of results, and just making sure that they're doing things correctly. Because for most coaches, all the information, or like 90% of the information, is already on ChatGPT or Google. They come to you for the personal touch, and I think that's what people miss in content, is adding that personal touch. They do it with AI. They don't talk about themselves. They just talk about tips. It's not going to cut it, because you need to be a person, personal brand, to actually get people to resonate with you, and to buy from you, which is what the lead magnet should be, is capitalizing on trust to get clients.
Subliminal or hidden, if you like, not quite in their face, not so much Wolf of Wall Street sales, no Black Friday stuff, but authentic, speaking from the heart. Yeah, I've got a great example of this in one that I've seen coaches make before. Like I said, remember I said you can't lead others down a path if you haven't walked it yourself. When I first started off as a coach, I made a book, right? The Balance Blueprint. That was my lead magnet. PDF dropped in off their, into their email after whatever. It had some success, but the moment we made our book and it had a price tag on it and there was no lead magnet, you'll be interested to see that one did far greater than the free one. The paid one, where it was no sales tactics, this is something of value, was far greater taken up than the free one. So for us, we use the podcast, we use the community, right? Generally want to help people. There's no crazy sales in that. But have you seen any other good tactics? I saw, I like it when maybe there's a quiz or something similar. What's your thoughts on that?
I have seen quizzes, yeah. I think it depends on what kind of coach you are. A quiz for maybe a personal trainer trying to diagnose a problem or see what they can help the clients with, what their goals are, that kind of thing. That's cool. And the more interactive, the better, really. So if it's just like words on a page and a lot of information and no real like what to do next after you've read it, that's not gonna succeed. But if you've got something that's actually a full process, so you click a link, you fill in a quiz, you get whatever reward you get from that, and then you talk about one CTA. What should I do next? So should I DM the person? Should I sign up to their community? Should I do whatever that is? Because the point of the lead magnet is to get them to do something else, to trust you enough, and be kind of build the goodwill enough for them to think, okay, yeah, I'll sign up to the community, or I'll send a DM, whatever that is. But yeah, I think it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It just has to be easy to consume for the person, and it has to have some sort of benefit to them.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much set.
Yeah, that's it. Benefit to them. Subliminal, not in your face. Okay. So going back to that part when I said, the free PDF book did well, maybe not as well as it should have done, or I thought it was going to do. We created an email series. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't advertise it. It was on no CTAs, no links, not on LinkedIn or anything like that. You went to the website, pop up.
Yeah.
Clicked on, had great success for us, didn't it? Yeah. It was an outrageous level of value for free, right? But it got something. What is it about an email series? For me, it's like I said, giving that value, that purpose, that whatever you do over an amount of time, something which is too good to be free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that the greatest lead magnet? If you're considering that before someone buys, they want to see you 6 or 8 times, is that the greatest part of the Bird of Paradise dance? Is that the thing that makes that light bulb moment where they suddenly decide to come and see your nest? Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think the reason our email series did so well is because we didn't advertise it. When people clicked on the website, everyone saw it because it was a pop-up. You've got to think the people who are on our website, they've already seen us somewhere to get on the website. They already trust you enough. And all they're doing is giving you their email. And they got like, how many words was it? Like 3,000 words of just pure, like, how do you actually build a coaching business with content, all of that stuff. And it did so well because they already trusted us.
Yeah.
And we didn't even need to talk about it really, because you can oversell things, and usually when people are trying to say this is really good, please buy it, and they're talking about it all the time, people think that's going to make people go, okay, yeah, I've seen this 5 times now, let's click it. If they've seen it once and they haven't clicked it, the chances are they're not going to click it.
Yeah.
It's just going to make you look salesy, make you look desperate, and usually those lead magnets aren't really good anyway. So the people who do click it don't really like it that much. They just close it and never to be seen again. So it's a bit of a waste of time. So I think just building that trust before you create the lead magnet, that's really important. That's the biggest thing that's going to impact the success of it.
Absolutely. What I love about an email series as a lead magnet, right? Even when we were making it, I'm thinking, wow, we're giving away a lot here, right?
Yeah.
But we generally wanted to help people. It wasn't about money. It was about genuine value, right? But what I loved about it more than anything is then the people that you get on the discovery calls, they pretty much already made their decision.
Yeah.
Because a big issue for coaches is time wasting. Whether they're marketers or whatever they might do, dropping into your, Calendly or whatever it might be, booking up your spaces, actually taking you away from earning money, wasting your time. What I love about that is it almost cuts through that sort of a process. You can see who's opted into the community, who's opted into the email. Once they're on to that discovery call, you almost know they've seen you 6 or 8 times already. Yeah, they've made that decision, haven't we? So look, I think we're moving quite nicely across this Bird of Paradise dance. So we've had the cuckoo, all right, and then the next bit was the dance, talking about the lead magnet and whatever it might be. But we're going on to the next bit. So I think a common problem that I see, right, is coaches spending too much time on content. For me, it's 10% content, 90% DMs in terms of actually converting, between actually getting to that stage of the rumble in the jungle, in the nest, through the Bird of Paradise. So what's your thoughts on that? Do you agree about that? Is relationship building more important than creating content itself?
As you said, coaches are always, or most of the time, type B, so they don't want to seem salesy. And obviously, a lot of them, especially the ones that we've talked to anyway, on previous podcasts as well, have had issues with dropping in the DMs. Even when people have liked their post before, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to DM them really." I think that's more of a mental block than anything.
Yeah.
They've seen you, they've liked your post. You can help them, why wouldn't you DM them?
Yeah.
What it's changing that mindset from I'm trying to get a response from them to I'm trying to actually help them. I'm trying to give them something rather than try and take their energy or their time or whatever that is. It's giving them help. And the worst case is you get ghosted. The best case is you get a new client. So I think it's really easy. Warm DMs especially. If you're not doing warm DMs, I think what's the point of posting content? Because you're only getting like 10% of the results
Yeah.
from the content itself. 90% of it will come from talking to people, diagnosing problems, helping people for free in the DMs, like personally one to one. That makes a massive difference compared to just talking about someone else on content. That's just like the door, the gateway into it. What you need to do then is do it for them, for free. Get them on a call, because obviously you've shown that you can help them, and pretty much it just sells itself. So you don't even need to be that good at sales. I mean, anyone who's been on a sales call with me will know I'm not good at sales. I'm rubbish. Most of the time, I'm not even talking. I'm just listening to them, diagnosing the problems. Um, but they already trust me, and they're just telling me their problems. I'm like, yeah, we can do this, 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 and they're like, okay, where can I pay? And it kind of sells itself. So you can be so good at marketing that you don't even need sales, but you can't be so good at marketing that you don't need to deliver for your clients as well. So the two things you need are just to be a good coach, to be an okay marketer, and that's going to get you far. I mean, most coaches are either 95% good coach, 5% good marketer, so rubbish marketer, or they're 95% marketer, brilliant marketing, but they can't deliver, they've got 5% coaching. When you get both of those to even 50%, it's just going to grow exponentially compared to if you were at the same percentages, but they're like that. If they're like, even if you're a little bit better coach and you've got some solid marketing, um, your thing is going to sell itself really. And the positive word of mouth on top of that, you're set up for success.
More chance of landing in the nest.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
There
Yeah.
you go.
You said something really interesting about discovery calls. I think that would be a good point to go on to, isn't it? This idea of how do you actually convert, right? So the content's one bit, and that's incredibly important, right? Of course, is a dream. You want them just to see the content and buy, and that's what happens if you have a product, yeah. If you have a book or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
but coaching's slightly different, isn't it? Yeah,
Buy
you've
a
got to
ticket.
build that relationship. That's right. How do you catch a whale?
Yeah.
And that's part of that nurturing process, because you don't just reel in a whale. There's going to be a lot more to it than that, you know. So that's what that process is about. I loved what you said about discovery calls, right? Because most coaches I've seen, and I've watched lots of discovery calls, okay, most coaches go, me. I'm
Yeah.
this special. I've got this qualification. I've done this, right? But it's not about them. You know, we've openly talked about this being like the hourglass, yeah? You bring them in, 10% you, 90% them about their problems, or you listen and you answer. Yeah, actual coaching itself. That is just one of the biggest problems I see is, again, coaches thinking too much about themselves, yeah, not about their clients' potential issues, right? So out of all the ones that we've seen, when it's all about me, most of them opt out, don't they? Most of them don't sign in. The ones who sign actually think, actually, no, I feel listened to, he's heard the problems that I'm going through, he can help me. And I loved what you said there about discovery calls, but I still think, you know, if we're looking at that landing at the nest part, and let's say that your nest is your social media channels, your website or landing page, right?
Yeah.
There's loads of issues that we see there. I think one of the biggest ones that I see, so the bird of paradise spends a hell of a lot of time making his nest, right? He goes and gets the best materials, takes his time, it's an art form, it's beautiful, it's perfect, right? And he's made it perfect. When the bird actually finally sees it, it goes, I like that. All right. So that nest is like I said, is your LinkedIn account, isn't it? Is your X, is your website. All right. For me, the biggest issue that I see are coaches using a website over a landing page. Too much me, not enough them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about a VSL in a landing page, is me answering their problem. Website is me, my fancy qualifications, pictures of my dog or my family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rubbish. Not needed. Landing page is all about those answers, answering those questions that they're looking for, right? What's your thoughts on that? Do you think it's quite nice for a coach to have a website, or is it just an immediate landing page? And if it is a landing page, you know, what are the fundamentals? What is it that they need to have the best nest? yeah, that the best possible opportunity to land a client.
Big question. So I mean, I know a lot of people who are making 5 figures a month with zero website, zero landing page, pure social media. I think if you're a coach, it's good to have some sort of landing page, so that people know you're not kind of new to it. You've got some sort of established thing there. But there's like the 6 page websites where they're like, I got an A star in GCSE business and I did this and I did that.
Yeah.
No one cares. It literally doesn't matter. And I think the people that are looking at your website already, they're going to have come from social media if you're focusing on that. You've got to intertwine a little bit into your social media, your story. So you share, once a week you go in a post, you say some fun fact about you that's related to the post, and to the value of it. They're going to trust you already. They've already clicked your website. They already think you're an okay person. You're not a scammer. You're not going to like hack their phone or whatever. They're on your website. What do they do now? I think it's really important to have one CTA. What do they do? So do they join a community? Do they book a call? What is it? And I think most people have at least like 4 links, to go and check out my Instagram, go and subscribe to my YouTube, go and book a call, go and like they're not going to do all those things. That's too much. They're just going to do nothing,
Yeah.
and they're going to forget about you because you've created like stress inside them. Whereas you could create a smooth process that's like, in your post you could even say one CTA at the bottom of a long form. By the way, if you want to know more about this, go to my website, book a discovery call. They click on your website, buttons right there, book a discovery call, booked.
Yep.
You're on it. And I think it's just being really clear about what to do, and why as well, rather than trying to reintroduce yourself and rebuild trust, even though it's already there. There's no need. It's just gonna reduce it.
Yeah.
It's gonna do the opposite of what you want it to do. So it's just being clear, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. They're coming to you because they want an easier life. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want it to be streamlined. They want it to be easier. So the amount of people who have, websites or links to whatever, it's just too much confusion, right? So I think I love an analogy, right? So if you think about, you're there with your fishing rod, it's gone out, right? And it's landed in the ocean, which is the internet. That's your content. It's gone out. You got your hook, and that's where the fish sees the bait, right? And it's looking at it, wondering whether he's going to bite it. The hook is the stop the scroll moment, right? He's seen it, he's thinking about it. The CTA, right? Call to action, which should be a link to your landing page, obviously, is when he nibbles. Yeah? When he's taking a bite. Oh, I like this. All right. He goes to your landing page. What that should be, and the biggest mistake that maybe I see is a fancy website with all these credentials that mean nothing. You click on the landing page and you're hit straight away with a VSL, right? Doesn't need to be more than 30 seconds because, as we know, even from creating the content that we do and helping others to create, it takes 0.3 seconds to create a reaction. Is a VSL on a landing page or a website, or even using video on your content, is that the greatest way to stop the scroll, to get them to bite? Not just nibble, not just look, to bite.
I think the people watching this will already know the answer. They'll probably watch this because they've seen our VSL or our clips on at some point, on Instagram, whatever it is. Even if we've DM'd them it. It just makes a massive difference hearing a voice and seeing a face, especially when people are like doing so much writing with AI and that kind of thing.
Yep.
It makes a big difference. And just being really to the point as well, so it doesn't have to be long. Really to the point. It's going to make a big difference. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
I think visual content is the future for sure.
Yeah.
People want to see you and they want to hear your voice and they want to see you speak, especially before sales calls. That makes a big difference as well because they kind of feel like they've already talked to you and they already trust you.
Yep.
So yeah, why wouldn't you do a VSL? It takes 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
It's better than repeating yourself to loads of different people and telling them too much and they're like, oh, I can't really be bothered. You just send it, bosh, they're in. Simple.
Absolutely. I think a VSL was essential on a landing page. If I click on a coach's website and I'm not hit with a video, I see an amateur, or I see someone who's maybe not quite sure of that nurturing tactic, how to actually market themselves. 0.3 seconds to lock in. to get them to click that link below to give your email address or a calendar link to book onto a call. Yeah, vitally important. It's really interesting what you said about video content. You know, I actually think if a coach goes in and they're posting videos every day, it's a bit samey. You get a bit used to it. You need a mix, and you need that video to stand out. Yeah, so you know, that's a bit off key, if you like. You know, if we're talking about this bird of paradise paradigm, you know, whatever you want to put it, but do you need to mix up that content, you know, or if it works, you know, for example, you know, my wife on TikTok, we had this chat. Yeah. She worked out that if she has herself at the start of the video, she gets more followers, more people watch all the way through. It works. She'll do that for every single one of her videos and she'll post that every day. Is that a good rule of thumb? Or as a coach, do you think maybe it's just got to be like mixed up? Because that's guru talk, isn't it? Put your face in it. If it works, you're going to get the followers, whatever, right? TikTok. But this is different, isn't it? You know, you're trying to catch that well, trying to resonate. Do you mix up that sort of content?
I think if it works, you've got to ask yourself, why does it work? So with your wife on the front page, why does that work? Well, people want to see a person that they want to connect with. And then the video after that will kind of resonate a lot more because they know it's like a personal experience rather than just like a generic thing. So ask yourself, why does it work? If it works for the reason of attracting your ideal client, do more of it. Why wouldn't you do more of it? And then, until it doesn't work, just keep doing it. But also don't get stuck in the trap of only doing that. I would keep experimenting on the side. So say if a hook works on LinkedIn, you could keep doing those hooks, those similar hooks on LinkedIn. But every couple of days, you could be like, try something new. Because it changes all the time. I think the X algorithm updates every like 2 weeks, something like that. It's just ridiculous. So it's sticking to the basics where you are providing value, hooking in the right people, pushing them to a CTA to the right places, and talking about yourself. But then also mixing up the wording, mixing up the visuals, the images, just to see what works that day, and it can change day to day.
Mix it up.
Yeah,
that's the truth of it, isn't
definitely
it?
Mix it up.
Don't stick with everything, because obviously different types of learners. You know, if you think about audio, visual, kinesthetic, maybe that's 30%, 30%, 30%. It's not just 100% are gonna tune into a video. There's all different types of people, and you've got to resonate with different types of the market.
And it makes it more interesting to you as well.
Absolutely.
So to create different stuff.
Yeah.
Keeps it good.
Yeah. I think we're at a good point now. You know, we've talked a lot about, you know, some of the common areas. I think there's one last big one, right? Before we lead into, you know, 90% of coaches quit or fail. How would you be the 10%, right? Who succeed? A common mistake that I see on everything that we do, apart from our book and our audio course, which obviously we've outsourced, we hide our prices, right? And a part of that is psychology, that it's not about money, it's about genuinely helping people. What for me, coaching is, As a coach, you have to be putting yourself in a position to help people, not worrying about your bank account. We talked about this, is that pink Lamborghini Dubai analogy, How many people do we see on X or Instagram portray that lifestyle, right? When you know they've only rented it or they've just seen one in the street and they're taking a picture of it, right? So as a coach, or if you're on X, whatever, right? Do you advertise your prices? But before that, you know, if you are going to do that, the biggest misconception, I think, the biggest lie in coaching and marketing, or charlatan angle behind it, where it's a bit ugly. Something that I don't like is when a marketer will say, I'll get you 30 leads a month. I'll make you 10K a month, right?
Yeah.
It is complete. It's rubbish, isn't it?
We can bleep it, can't we?
Yeah. So if you get a marketer or someone say, I'll give you 30 leads a month, or I'll make you 10K, it's rubbish, isn't it?
It usually is.
Yeah. It isn't true. Or it's built on a massive ad spend. Do you remember the guy we had that dipped into my DM saying he'll give me this amount of leads?
Yeah.
And I took it away, didn't I? I worked it out that I would be working 100 hours a week if I had that amount of clients. It's not physically possible. It was a lie. So that isn't true. And that's what the coach trap is built on, isn't it? Don't fall into the coach trap. Yeah. Maybe don't listen to all the gurus. Listen to, you know, some of them obviously got some great stuff, but what works for one person actually isn't necessarily going to work for someone else either, is it? It's finding that sweet spot. But money. What's your thoughts on that? Do you advertise it? Do you openly say about, the guy I saw some the other day, I will make you 4 times more productive, right? No,
How do you
you
even
can't.
measure that?
No, you can't. Yeah, exactly. It's not measurable, right? I will, 10x or whatever. No, 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 you can't, right? So, but does that catch people's attention? Or does that make them think that's a charlatan? I can't trust that person. For me, I don't talk about money. All right. I want to work with people that want to work with us, right? And vice versa. And sometimes I think at that level, the money's not important, but not important. They want that relationship. Yeah. Right. But what's your thoughts on that?
I think it really depends with the advertising prices. It depends where you're advertising them. So if you're posting on X saying, by the way, it's £299 a month for my coaching course, you can book here. Okay, it's a bit random. You don't want to just pop into someone's feed and go straight into that. You need to warm them up a little bit.
Yeah.
If you were just like in the DMs, they're asking how much it is. Of course, you say how much it is. You're not trying to like catch them out or anything on a sales call. It's just context dependent, really context dependent.
Yeah.
With the messages and stuff, I think 10 years ago it would have worked, saying I'm gonna get you 4 times the amount of meetings or whatever that is. Now it won't. I think it's no better than like the Nigerian prince in your DMs going, by the way, I can give you $1 billion. Just send me your bank details. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
And especially when they're not even posting content.
Yeah.
There's nothing to base that off. There's nothing. There's no trust.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think if you can back it up, you can say, okay, I can get you X results.
Yeah.
Don't make it outrageous, because if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. No one's gonna bother with that. But don't be a Nigerian prince. And I think, just tell them that you can help them.
Yeah.
And show them that you've helped other people before. Get them on the call. Then you can talk about that, rather than dropping in with outrageous statements that I get like 5 times a day anyway. So it's outrageous, but it's standard now. So it just blends in. So it's kind of the worst of both worlds.
Absolutely. I think that brings us on to a really good point about why we created the coach track.
Yeah.
You're the marketer. You're Wolf of Wall Street. I'm the coach. I'm Coach Carter, right? We've worked out that most coaches don't make it because they're not bad coaches, they're bad marketers. So to actually do well in this business, you've got to go right down the middle. You've got to be a bit of both, or you've got to find someone to give you that accountability. That brings me in perfectly to that pricing, high ticket clients, whatever you want to do. 7 different types of income for a coach, right? That we openly talk about in the coach track.
Yeah.
Right? Probably not got enough time to go into that yet. But for me as a coach, right? If I want a bottle of water, I go into the supermarket, I buy it, I don't look at the price, I need the water. If I go into a pub, I see a pint of beer, I'm going to buy it. I'm not going to ask how much it is, I'm going to pay for it because I want it. However, if I'm looking at holidays, I want a bargain. I want a deal, right?
Yeah.
So is there tactics and strategy behind that? Is that the importance between having a high ticket, low ticket, free option, right? Something for everyone, all right? What's your thoughts on behind that? Because I think a real problem that I see is a coach that is just reliant on one-to-one, all right? Or a coach that just has a low ticket option or a high ticket option, right? They need something for everyone. What's your thoughts on that?
I think you said before the niche kind of finds you, and I think the price kind of finds you as well. So if you're doing one-to-ones at the moment and a lot of people are saying, well, actually, I really like your stuff, but I can't really afford it. Either that's a content problem, so you're attracting the wrong people, or they are potentially good clients. You just need to offer them something different. So if you're seeing that theme consistently, why wouldn't you implement a different price? But it's getting that balance between helping people and not having like 15 different offers and people don't know what's going on. It's like with the CTAs. You only have one clear path for each person. You've got to be clear which path that is. Potentially that's a good place for a quiz in a lead magnet.
Yeah.
That'd be quite cool.
It's a good idea.
But yeah, I mean, coaching isn't like water. You don't need it to survive, but you can talk about it in an emotional way where you can get a transformation. People really, really want it. They don't need it, but it's going to make a massive difference to their life. But I think just don't be too outrageous and keep it focused. And it's pretty much going to be, as long as you've got good content and you're a good coach, you're going to have success.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good content, good coach, and generally want to try to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah. more purpose than earning money. I think that's a really important point. I think this is a good point to say, you want to be that 10% who succeed, not the 90% who fail. I think we talked a lot about that 90% who fail, yeah? Right, and why. Some of the common issues that they might have, whether it's the way they market themselves or the strategy they use, pricing, AI, whatever it might be, right? But to be the 10% who succeed, for me, maybe the biggest part of that is accountability. Yeah. I wouldn't be sat here now in a position I'm in, and us, if it wasn't for you, right? For you giving me that level of accountability. For me, that's what the coach trap is, right? Is not looking for quick fixes, right? Looking to generally help people, stopping them from falling into the coach trap. So we've also found in terms of coaches that maybe one-to-one isn't for everyone right now. Maybe it's too expensive. Yeah. Lots buy the book, lots want to listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. But more than ever, we've seen the real importance and need for a community, haven't we? Yeah. I think that there's going to be more coaches than ever, right? AI is going to squeeze people in terms of redundancies, etc. More coaches are going to come into this market. I actually think that the coaches are in a strong position. I don't think AI will ever cancel that out. People want human connection, yeah?
Yeah.
I do think the marketing side might struggle, right? If you're a video editor, for example, right? Or an ad spend, whatever it might be. I think they'll struggle with AI, all right? But the importance of a community, being the 10%, why have we created a school community? Why is it a good time to put something like this out?
I think you said before, talking about different offers, people have seen us, and maybe there is a big jump to go from just seeing content to however much like the high ticket thing is.
Yep.
It's a big jump. What we want to do is help more people on a more kind of individual level with case studies, with specific things, specific processes that have worked for us and worked for our clients, but not for like a massive price. So I think it's almost like a lead magnet where you're building more trust to get them into the higher ticket thing. But it's kind of a sustainable, consistent lead magnet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, a big part of the coaching community that we're creating on school is I think that lots of people don't want to dive straight into a high ticket.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
There's life, right? They have a family to run, bills to pay, whatever, right? Sometimes that's a little bit too much, but they want little and often, right? They want to feel that someone is supporting them, that they're there, that there's someone that they can reach out to. And maybe that's what this is about, isn't it? Is nurturing, right? Instead of saying, look, I'll give you those 10K those 10 leads, I'll make you 10K a month. No. We know that doesn't work. All right. What this is I think this is the greatest opportunity to be like, a sounding board, to help them, to assist them every step of the way, to also tell them a little bit about our journey and what's worked for us and what hasn't, what's worked for others. Yeah. But another thing, like I said, is one process that works for someone might not work for someone else.
Yeah.
There has to be come and go and like an ebb and a flow to this, doesn't it? And I think that's why the community is good, because it's not just one thing works. Not like one key is going to open up that door. What the community does is it creates an opportunity, doesn't it, to be that sounding board. 7 different income streams for a coach. Doesn't just have to be one-to-one. I think that's going to be the biggest part of this is accountability, and that's what you were for me. When I was that coach, I wanted to be more. That's what I needed at that time, and that's what was great, right? And we've seen that's the biggest help for all these other coaches is maybe not a one system thing. Create a funnel, put money into ads, earn money. That's not quite how it works. It's actually a little trial and error, a little bit of nurturing, being there for someone. All right. What's your thoughts on that, Dan? Do you feel like that's maybe going to be the biggest part of the community? Is generally being there for people?
Yeah, I think people look at things too black and white, so they think marketing, coaching, get people marketing. I'll just find people and they'll buy my stuff. It's not really like that. It's more like a funnel. So you see maybe like 100,000 people see us a month on X. Of those, maybe 10% follow. Maybe a 10% of those maybe send us a DM asking a question. Maybe 10% of those get on a call. Maybe 10% of those become clients. So it's the full funnel. And obviously, the community costs $3 a day, so there's no excuses really for for not joining if you want to actually better yourself. I think that's a big thing that I see with the difference between the 10% and the 90% is the 10% are willing to invest in themselves, um, because they're not scared of failure. I think often that people don't want to invest in themselves because it means they're committed, and when they're committed, if they fail, their friends are going to think, oh, he actually tried and he still failed. But I think there's no point not trying because you're going to fail anyway. So you might as well try. And if you fail, you learn something. And if you succeed, you succeed. But you're not going to succeed if you're not trying, and you're not investing in yourself, because that's what it takes. There's a lot of competition. You've got to invest in yourself. And if you don't, you're cooked. You're part of the 90%.
That's it.
So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, for me, we created the school community because 90% quit or fail, right? Be the 10% who succeed. We understand that maybe there's a difficult time in life at the moment and money situation is different for everyone, but we generally want to help people. Yeah, so being that 10%, and we want to make that number less, obviously, don't we? You know, we want to create something like this so it's not 10%, so it's 6%, well, even more than that, 10, 12% who succeed, yeah, whatever it might be. We want to make that 90% that fail smaller. But what sort of things are we going to cover? What does a coaching community actually look like?
Yeah, so ours is going to be really good. We've got, I promise, we've got courses. So we've got, well, not courses, we've got the PDFs, which is the full funnel from everything we talked about here, the Bird of Paradise dance, teaching you all the different platforms, how to use multiple platforms, how to become more efficient, and sales calls as well. And these unlock with the longer you stay in the community, so that you can get the most out of each part and really master it before you move on. On top of that, we've got the live sessions, Q&As. Any questions you have, we'll answer. Because the chances are, if you've got that question, everyone else, well, like 80% of people will have that question as well.
Yep.
They just won't really talk about it because they don't want to look silly or whatever that is. You don't look silly, you look like a normal coach who hasn't been taught marketing, which is all of them. But yeah, Q&As will be cool, I think, talking to people. And then on top of that, we've got obviously the community itself. So we've got coaches helping coaches, helping each other, telling us what works for them, context dependent stuff. And obviously you got the DMs on there as well. So we'll obviously answer those for the one-to-one questions. $3 a day, no brainer, really. It's going to be really good. I'm actually excited to help more people.
Yeah, me as well. I can't wait. It's a journey I can't wait to invest myself in. When we created the book, obviously, we put a lot of effort into it and made each chapter sort of like those fundamentals that every coach needs to succeed, yeah, to be the 10%. What the community is that doubled, isn't it? You know, every single chapter, more video content, but also, you know, in the book, you might read it and you can't chase it up. You can't double down or, you know, make sure you understand it. They can just reach out to us, can't they? So if they're working through each stage, if they have a question about, you know, how do I DM someone? How do I structure a discovery call? They've got that option, haven't they, to send us that message. And I think that's maybe the best part of it, accountability. Actually helping people day to day, you know, as much as possible. I think the masterclasses are going to be great as well. You know, like if you look on LinkedIn and how many people sell these at a great price, right?
Really expensive.
I don't blame them. They'll be great. You know, some of these masterclasses will be great, but we've decided to just include it as a part of the community, haven't we? Is how to X, how to LinkedIn, you know, which will be recorded. They can watch back anytime and again ask us any questions from it, but not an option to be paid for. It's going to be an important established part of the community, isn't it? These weekly, you know, how to, you know, and I think as well, it'd be great if we found out what coaches actually want help with.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it might not be what you think.
And I think it changes a lot as well. The different strategies, they change weekly, monthly, whatever that is. So it's going to be really cool to stay up to date with all the coaches that we've helped in the past as well, and the new ones that are coming in.
Yep.
Just to see what they're doing, see how they're succeeding, and help each other. It's going to be really good.
Absolutely. So, you know, if you think about the community, you know, when we were writing this, I thought the thing that really stood out to me most actually is going away from coaches just being one-to-one.
Yeah.
You know, having the ability to harness those 7 different income streams, if you like. How to write a book.
Yeah.
How to write an audiobook.
Important.
Yeah. How to be a podcast guest. How to get yourself another podcast. whatever it might be, right? That's how you build authority. That's how you have different income streams. That's how you actually make this, from part-time thing to full-time job, yeah? Something that you love. It's not all about one-to-ones, is it? You need more than that. And we put a lot of effort in, didn't we, into creating those courses, those how-tos on how to develop those different income streams, Anything else, Dan? Anything else you want to talk about in terms of the community?
Let me think.
There's too much to talk about with it.
Yeah,
We could go anyway with it.
I'm actually really excited for it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be good.
me as well. Me as well.
But yeah, I think if you're not going to invest in yourself, I don't know why you're still watching this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to spend this time watching it, if you're not going to like sacrifice a coffee a day, to kind of get helped by coaches, us who've done it before,
Yeah.
and coaches who are doing it right now, it's kind of a no-brainer. So I think, why wouldn't you do it?
That's it. That's it. So look, guys, if you want to know more about the Coach Trap School community, the links will be in the bio. And guys, whatever you do, don't fall into the coach trap. And that's it.